to the first session of Fundamentals of Technology. Let us start this session with a cartoon. The invention of wheel has been one of the significant milestones in human evolution. So is the technology. In this cartoon, we see the lady is asking, what is that round thing? She is asking, oh, this is not a wheel, it is called a CD-ROM, is it? Now, they look like a Stone Age era people and they are wondering what that round object is. In this session, let us learn more about fundamentals of technology. We are going to start the session with systems, computer system, input, processing, output cycle, input, processing and output and storage devices. Further, we will also learn more about the software and hardware components, and we will conclude the session with some interesting facts. Let's start the session. The definition of system goes like this. A system is an integrated set of components which has a clear boundary, has a specific set of functions, and all the components in the system are interrelated. Now, usually we use the word like a music system, a political system, or a workplace system. Now, in all these examples, every system has its own set of components, functions, and a boundary. Now, when we say music system, there is a music which is coming on the musical instrument or on the player. Now, where is the song coming from? The song needs to be recorded, given music, and then stored on the system, which is coming as an output on the speaker. Now, all these things needs to be done logically, one after the other in a sequential manner. So, in a system, there is a sequential process of input, processing and output. Now, that's what happens in the music system. We may not be able to see the song, but we are still able to hear it. So, everything has systematically been processed, stored, and then it has been enabled to play. Now, let us look into the definition of a computer system. A computer is an electronic device which has input, processing and output. It takes the data as an input, processes the data and converts that data into information, gives it as an output. So, we have various input devices which support the input data activity, processing components and then multiple output devices. Now, let us take the example of input, processing and output cycle model what we see on the screen. So, input can be given through any of the input devices. Let us understand that input, processing and output cycle through this diagram. There are multiple input devices in the diagram like a keyboard, scanner, mouse and a head mounted device. Usually we call it as a speech synthesizer. Now, whatever data is given through these input devices is getting into the central processing unit, and we need to understand the type of data given is different in all these input devices. Like we are giving alphabets and numerals through the keyboard, maybe a voice over the microphone, or through mouse we are giving some command instructions. And with a scanner we might be giving an image. Now, whatever is the type of input data, that goes into the central processing unit. The central processing unit is the brain of the computer. Now, it comprises of arithmetic and logic unit, control unit and memory storages. Significantly, the primary memory and the secondary memory. It also has some space for registers. Now, what happens in the CPU is whatever activities are given are processed by the respective section and given as an output through the output device. The output device could be a printer where we could print it as an evidence, or maybe we will see the data first on a monitor, or it could be a speaker if it is an audio file, or we might also have other type of output devices. Now, when we look at this diagram, the activities input, processing and output seems to happen sequentially on a personal computer the way we demonstrated in the diagram. But in reality, this might happen in multiple locations. Now, if you look at this diagram, we are trying to take an example of bank where the input activities are happening at multiple points. You can see there's a customer who is trying to withdraw the money from the ATM machine, or you can see a customer is trying to, visit an ATM for money deposit, or it might be a simple kiosk where a customer is trying to perform a withdrawal, deposit or whatever action they want. Or there might be customers who are at the bank at that point of time. Now, at any given point of time, all these customers might be doing different activities, and the input device there might be an ATM machine or a computer, mobile or a laptop or any other kiosk which is set up in the bank, through which the input instructions are fed to the computer, or better say as the information system. Now, what happens is, based on that data, the information is validated and the activity is performed. Now, all this input is not in one place, but all this input is going to one centralized place, maybe the bank's server, where the processing is mainly occurring. Now, if you look at this diagram, input activities are going and output activities are response. Now, this is not one time activity, this is like to and from multiple activities. And till now we did not discuss about network. Network is making all these things possible, like the data which is going to the bank server or coming back to the respective kiosks, they are able to be reflected as transactions because data is moving through this network. Now, when we look at this process, we clearly understand input, output and processing need not happen in one place on one set of device. It might be scattered and possible to integrate all this through a connected set of systems, what we call it as network. Now, this might also be the situation with multiple business activities. So, it was very clear that there might be multiple input devices. Now, that was in the case of a bank which we took as an example. If you look at this diagram, we have still other input devices listed, and there might also be input devices which are used specifically in the respective fields. In general, we see these input devices like a keyboard, mouse, scanner or barcode reader, joystick, touchpad, touch panel, webcam, MICR or magnetic ink character recognition or OMR, optical mark reader, speech synthesizer or a scanner which can take the image. In all these input devices, the different type of, based on that, the processing occurs. Now, in the next example what we are going to discuss, we see in a healthcare setup, the input devices are totally different. Now, what we see here is an input device which is ready to scan or read or understand the health issues or report or diagnose the set of activities required in the healthcare segment. And you also see multiple devices are connected there to facilitate the whole process. Now, in the second diagram you see there are lights. Now, the lights are also falling on particular devices, enabling the process reading or facilitating the activity. Now, every component here in this setup plays an important role in capturing the data, processing the data or reflecting the data. Now, in the next picture what you see, let me ask a question. How many types of keyboards have you seen? How many of these are you able to identify? If you look at the diagram, there might be keyboards which you have commonly witnessed, like a gaming keyboard, or probably some of you would have seen the virtual projection keyboard, or maybe you would have seen a keyboard with a different language letters imprinted. These days we don't need a particular language keyboard because we can have a small interface app which could translate it on the computer system in spite of the keyboard being a common English language keyboard. This is also happening on our mobile keypads. Now, usually in most scenarios, we come across the 102 or 103 keyboard where the keys belong to alphabet, numeric, special keys, command keys, and some other set of keys which are specially designed for particular activity. So we understand there could be a keyboard which is exclusively designed for that particular purpose. These are some of the common type of keyboards which are used in different situations. Next up, when we talk about mouse, we usually come across a single button mouse, double button mouse. Or maybe you would also have come across a trackball mouse if you are a game lover or game player. Maybe you also would have seen that fancy colored gaming mobile which is mostly used in the game zones. The mouse is used to give command instructions, pointing, dragging, clicking, and it restricts for all these set of inputs. Can I do something else in the mouse? Now every device has its own specific function. Now when you look at mouse, the mouse basically is used to give command instructions by clicking, dragging, pointing or dropping. So we also have different types of mouse which can facilitate interactions. Going forward, we will also take a look at the types of scanners. Now to enable the different types of data capturing, we use scanners. Maybe it is an image where you want to scan or reading the image, or maybe you also want to take some input from the image, or the input may be slightly different, like in this case you have flatbed scanners which can read the normal data, sheet fed scanners where you have to insert the sheet and whatever data is there on the sheet it reads. You have drum scanners where you are going to insert, and usually like large sheets are inserted of drawing or printing purpose where the image is scanned. And we have the negative scanner. So in the negative scanner usually a photofilm is inserted and it can read that negative or photofilm. We have book scanner where the book can be placed and it might be able to read or scan what is there on the book. And these days audio enabled scanners are also there. Iris scanner and fingerprint scanners are specifically for the biometric reading enabling. Now no two human beings can have similar handprints or iris. Now the iris scanner takes the retina readings as input and stores that as the data. We have fingerprint or iris scanner which can take the retina or the biometric as input. No two human beings can have similar iris or fingerprints. That is the reason it is taken as a biometric data. Now this is a unique type of data and it is reserved for one person. That is the reason during our social security process, verification process, like Aadhaar card or any other particular documentation, they try to take our iris or fingerprints as the biometric input data for the individual. We also have handheld portable scanners which are used for multiple purpose, like reading a barcode or scanning a QR code, or maybe it can read any other type of data which has already been predefined for it to read. Now there might be multi-purpose readers which can enable the reading in a warehouse or attendance purpose, or even some library books or some logical sequence entry. Whatever is designed, it should be able to read that. The only requirement is the reading data needs to be predefined, loaded so that it verifies, stores and enables the process. So scanners play an important role today, not only in the business setup but in general circumstances, like as we discussed, maybe a passport approval with the help of a biometric data, or maybe like scanning our image or photography for a different requirement. Now let us also look into how all the data which is going into the computer is getting processed. The central processing unit, the CPU, which is called as the brain of the computer, comprises of arithmetic and logic unit, control unit, and the main memory and secondary memory. Now how does a processor look like? Usually people often confuse the cabin next to the computer is the CPU. But in reality the CPU is a small chip which is embedded on the motherboard that hardly might be size of a small matchbox or maybe lesser than that. Now, the CPU comprises of multiple services. Now, these mainly are processing services, and it might connect a graphical card, a network card, a sound card, or maybe a RAM memory, which are all integrated on the motherboard. The CPU connects all these processes, plays an important role in taking all the activities input, process and perform these activities. Now when we look at output devices, there are multiple output devices. For discussion, let us start with monitor, which is one of the most commonly used output device. Now this device instantly throws what is the processing occurring inside the computer as an output. Today we have specially designed monitors for different purpose. You might see a monitor inside a hospital is very different from the computer monitor which we use inside the house. Or maybe a monitor which is designed for a FM channel to see the songs list, or a TV channel, or a monitor or a kiosk which is designed on the railway station counter to display the ticket information, all vary in sizes. In general, we call them as VDU, visual display units. They can vary in different sizes and basically they throw the output on the screen. We also have printers from where we can take the hard copy evidence of the printout, and headphones where we can listen to the audio, or maybe if it is a speech synthesizer, even it can listen to the voice. We have projectors which can project the image on a surface, and all of these give different types of output. Now before the output is coming on these devices, you can store them on the internal device, or it could also be captured and stored in the external storage devices. We have multiple storage devices like pen drive, CD-ROM or DVD, hard disk, and for photography and image storing purpose we have memory cards, and then small memory extension cards which are mostly used in smartphones. These days, because of the smartphones memory extension requirement, these memory cards are in trend. Now hard disks are more useful when you want to store large amount of data, and we have SSDs in place today which could allow us to store huge amount of data. Now when we were discussing the example of bank, we said that there is huge amount of input data which is getting processed. Now where is this getting processed? Where is this getting stored? Maybe we all have heard a common term, the data is on the cloud. So the storage here can occur at the next level on a cloud. A cloud is a storage space which is virtually located in some other place. Let us take an example of these data centers which Google uses to store its data. In the diagram what you see, Google's cloud data centers are located in different parts of different continents. Now Google is one of the largest data storage. Now it cannot store the data in one place. So obviously they design data centers with high security and processing abilities in different zones. Now you can see which are the places where the data centers are located. This information is taken latest up from the Google cloud centers, and you can also see some of the upcoming cloud centers in the diagram and how they are enabling the data movements. Now the next diagram what is coming up is the Google data center, and usually these data centers are located around waterbeds and it has high security provisions. And the right side diagram what you see is also a representation of how the hard disks are located or the storage structures are located inside these data centers. So they are racked on huge hubs and connected with multiple connections. Now today, big organizations like banks, a email server or a hospital with multiple branch might need to store data in different places, and they might also have large amount of data. Like in case of bank, millions of customers' data needs to be stored and retrieved as and when required. Next up, we have printers. There are different types of printers. Today, one of the common printer we see at the residential requirements or individual requirements could be a DeskJet or a simple inkjet printer. So we have different types of printers which are used for different purpose. In the diagram what you see, DeskJet, inkjet, laserjet printers might be used for small to medium requirements. What if I can print a 3D material, something like a mold, a chair? In the diagram you can see a person is trying to print a structure. Now the structure what he is holding by hand is what is getting printed, and what could be the input material. The structure's component itself could be the input material. Now there are different types of printers which are designed in the world today. With 3D, we have 3D printers. The picture what you see is one of the world's largest 3D printers. You can see people are standing on the other side of the exhibition and they're all excited to see how this printer functions. Now you can also see that it has printed a small mold there, and in the next diagram you can see like how it is in the action. So you can see how big it is when compared to the human size. Now Bangalore also is fortunate to have the first 3D printed post office. Imagine you can just build the wall structures in few hours, assemble it with a block structure, you can select the texture, colors and designs like you want, and just finish the project in few minutes. Some of the smaller infrastructures could be quickly built with the help of 3D building blocks like this. So the material what goes into that varies based on what needs to be built. You can see in this diagram like how ink is used to print on the paper. There is a component or a material which is getting layered by layered print. Now these printers also have a quick ability of dry options, coloring, finishing and multiple other actions. 3D printers are one of the most trending devices industry. We also have a TED Talk where this fashion designer Danit Peleg was so excited to print her day-to-day clothes, design it by herself, and she researched and evolved with the concept where she said that it could be done instantaneously by selecting the design whatever the user wants. Please watch this TED Talk to understand how individuals can customize their own clothings. So fashion is getting a new phase with instant fashion printing technologies. We shall now discuss more about software and hardware. Till now whatever we discussed, we understood hardware is set of devices or components which are visible. Now we listed input devices, output devices, storage devices, and whatever we discussed is general devices. There might be devices like in a hospital, an input device which is used exclusive to scan a human body Like an MRI scanner, the picture what you see in the diagram is an MRI scanner. The data what is going inside is the human body. So there might be a different input device which we have not seen in a generic situation till now. So we need to understand there might be lot of other input and output devices which might not be visible or understood by us, but they are used in that specific fields itself. So when we talk about software, there are two particular types of software. One is the system software and the other one is the application software. A system software is a software or a set of instructions which is useful particularly for the system to boot or to enable other applications installations. Now an application software is something which goes and resides on the system software. So the system software is the fundamental software and the application software is the software which is residing or dependent on the system software. Now we have many application softwares which we use for different purpose, like we have MS Office which has Word, Excel, PowerPoint which are commonly used, and MS Office still has a lot of other applications, or it might be a web browser, so it's a browser application. And with the invention of smartphones today, we see a lot of other smaller applications which are designed with the help of latest software technologies which enable different kinds of applications or tasks. Now we understood hardware and software. When we look at the both, we can either compare or differentiate. The hardware is tangible while the software is intangible. Hardware provides instructions and enables functions, while software is actually the code which is designed to perform as per the instruction. So it executes the task as instructed by the software. Hardware is made up of electronic components. Software is written in the computer code language. In case of hardware, you can add more devices. In case of software, we call it as an installation process. So with all these discussions, we understood there are different types of input, output, storage devices. We also understood what is a system and a computer system. Let's just check some interesting facts. Hon Hai Precision Industry is the world's largest computer components manufacturer. They assemble products for Apple, Sony and others. Now, these interesting facts will enable you to update with the current affairs of hardware and software industry. Now, Apple is the world's largest tech hardware company and the world's largest company by market capitalization. It produces wide range of hardware including mobile communication devices like iPhones, iPads, digital watches, personal computers like Macs and portable digital music players. Now, Singapore is the world's largest exporter of electronic components, followed by Taiwan and China. Now, all this information is latest and verified. When we look at the top computer manufacturing companies in the world, Lenovo, HP, Dell and Apple stand on top. Now, Lenovo is the world's largest personal manufacturer. And when we look at the 5 biggest IT companies, we have Alphabet, Amazon, Apple, Meta and Microsoft. They are also known as the Big 5 tech companies. Now, according to the recent Forbes report, the largest software companies of 2023 are Microsoft, Google, Oracle and Salesforce. Now, Microsoft produces Windows operating system and other application softwares, while Google produces majority of the Google services and products. Oracle produces ERP package and databases. Salesforce is one of the world's leading CRM, customer relationship management software producer. Now with this, I hope you enjoyed the session and understood more about why and how technology is playing an important role and how all these functionalities and devices are contributing to the simplifying of tasks. Let's look into a few references. which are referred in this chapter. And before we wind up the session, let's quickly recall the highlights. We started with definitions of systems, computer system. We spoke about input, processing and output cycle, software and hardware components, and concluded with some interesting facts. Thank you.